Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be talking about the Dreamhouse and the themes of the past and how it links to apartheid. First we're going to look at Looksmart and his relationship with the past. Now the past is very important to him. One event, especially Grace's death, affects him still to this day. He cannot just forget the past and focus on his future. He is still affected by Grace's death because he cannot separate his love and his fear. Remember in a past video, we said that he remembers seeing Grace and the dog attacking her as a double beast. So now he cannot separate his love and his fear, and he loves his wife fully, but he holds back because he is scared of getting hurt again, or he's scared of losing another love of his life, because he's scared that maybe he won't be able to survive the hurt or the pain will be too much for him to handle. So he does close himself off a little bit so that he is less vulnerable. Because he is still so affected by the past, we could say that he never really left Dweleni Farm because he has never really left what happened to Grace in the past. He is always carrying that and the hurt that he feels because of that incident around with him. When he goes back to Dweleni Farm, his main aim is to confront Patricia about the past and Grace's death, in order for him to just make her understand his pain and for her to also feel guilt and sadness about what happened. He wants her to be accountable about her actions in the past and the role that she played in the past, because he thinks that's how he's going to be able to move forward and to heal from what happened to Grace. Looksmart believes that he knows the whole story about Grace's death, but he actually doesn't. He does not know about the rape and Richard's reasoning for setting the dog on Grace. Only Beauty does. He believes that Richard set the dog on Grace purely because he was a racist and not because anything else was happening and that she was pregnant with his baby. Now we are going to look at Patricia. Patricia is very happy to just forget the past and focus on the future, but this actually hurts her in the long run. We know that she does not care about the past because of a couple quotes. Them being, backward glances only crick the neck. So that means looking back at the past will only hurt you and it won't help. She also says that in the end, the past doesn't amount to much. So that's basically saying that looking back in the past doesn't matter. It won't help anything. It won't benefit you in any way. The fact that she doesn't want to look back at the past has made her quite ignorant and oblivious to a couple things. She trusts Richard's version of the story and what happened to Grace. She sees it as a whole sorry affair, which basically means that it was an accident, and she doesn't think that Richard had any ill intentions. When Looksmart confronts her, it actually makes her realize that the past is really important. He makes her realize that sometimes a crick in the neck is exactly what the doctor ordered. This quote means that sometimes looking back at the past and feeling hurt from past experiences will actually help you heal, feel better about it and move forward. Looking back at the past does not only force her to deal with what happened with Looksmart and Grace, but also with the death of her baby. She needs to look back at these things in order to let go of the anger and the sadness that she felt about them. She carries this anger and sadness around subconsciously, so it's very easy to ignore it, but it is still always there. It is important to note what benefits looking back at the past can give you and what it meant for both characters. For Looksmart, this meant getting closure with what happened to Grace and letting go of the hatred that he has for Patricia. He can also now separate love from fear. This will benefit him because it will allow him to have more meaningful relationships, to stop holding back due to fear, and to be more open. It helps Patricia realize that she needs to take responsibility for her actions and to gain accountability. She realizes that she has to dig up and take Rachel, which was her dead baby, with her to Durban because they buried her on their farm. But now that they are moving to Durban, she realizes that she needs to look back at the past and face the hurt and the sadness that came with losing her baby, to dig up her baby and take it with her to Durban. And this is basically saying that you cannot leave your past behind and forget about it. It's also helped her realize that Looksmart had his reasons for falling out with her, and she can sort of understand where he is coming from and why he may have cut off contact with her, so she doesn't feel as hurt and confused as to what happened. Now we need to link the Dreamhouse and the theme of the past to apartheid, because this is also a very big theme in the book. One quote that really does show the inequality between races is less than human. And now this was referring to Grace's death, and when Grace was really hurt by the dog, and Patricia cared more about her car seats than getting Grace to the hospital. So this is basically making out Grace to be less important than her car seats, which she could have just cleaned or replaced. And that, to look smart, and I'm sure to everybody, just shows that she was being pretty racist then, because maybe if it was a white person, she would have cared less about her car seats and prioritized like a human who could be dying more than her car. Patricia was not overly racist. I think she did it more subtly or maybe even subconsciously, and she wasn't trying to be, or she didn't know that she was being racist. But Richard was very racist, and he spoke down to beauty and look smart all the time openly. An example where Patricia was subtly racist was when she called Look Smart by his English name. So it's not necessarily a white person's name, but it is more of an English name, and he did have a Zulu name. So it would have been a lot more respectful of her to say, okay, which one would you rather be called by? But she never even thought of that. She never asked, never called him by his actual Zulu name, and only by the one that she gave him. Another major theme under this category of the link to apartheid and the past is transition, and it is very evident the pre- and post-apartheid lives that people live here. And it's not completely post-apartheid because there's still some inequality, but you could see that it is slowly changing in order to make all races more equal. This is evident in the destruction of Dweleni Farm, because Dweleni Farm is kind of a representation of pre-apartheid because of all the racist behavior that went on. And the fact that it's being destroyed also shows the destruction of the pre-apartheid actions and racist behavior. So destroying Dweleni Farm also destroys racist behavior. So for the pre-apartheid times and before the Dweleni Farm was destroyed, white people were seen as more powerful. They had the upper hand and they were in control, like Patricia and Richard. They had a lot of African people working for them. They were the bosses. Then post-apartheid and when the Dweleni Farm was being destroyed, Looksmart had the upper hand, and as he has taken over the farm, therefore he has more control than Patricia and Richard. So there the roles have changed and it is more equal. So as I was talking about before, he is destroying Dweleni Farm, and by doing that, he is destroying the racism that was evident on the farm when he was growing up. So when he rebuilds it, it will no longer be a place of racism. And this ties in with the title of the book, because we are talking about his dream house. His dream house is not the farm that he grew up in, but the house and the farm that he is creating, where there is equal opportunity and treatment of everybody. Another symbol that shows the transition from pre-apartheid to post-apartheid are the dogs. The dogs were killed before Patricia and Richard moved to Durban. And dogs were kind of seen as a symbol of racism because a lot of white people used to have dogs in order to protect themselves or their land from black people. And they would have the dogs attack anyone that was black who came onto their land, or not necessarily like came to them, but maybe tried to hurt them or whatever. But the fact that these dogs were killed indicates that there is no longer any racism, and there is a shift to post-apartheid times when dogs were no longer needed as a form of protection.